everyone, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel and thank you so much for visiting with me today. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, The Cutting Board. We do all kinds of things here, just all kinds of stuff. We do vlogs, Disney content, true crime, DIY, SFX makeup, food and cooking content, all kinds of stuff. I have lots of interests and I want to share them with you. So in this video, we are going to discuss Nicholas Godejohn. My intention is not to upset anyone. I don't want to do that. It is just to examine the situation and my thoughts on his situation. So I hope that makes sense. And I am in no way saying in this video that he doesn't deserve a new trial. I just want to discuss, some of the intricacies of the matter, because this isn't black and white.
The thing is that I know she loves her mom a lot. I know she does.
Yeah.
I was up here with her, and she felt guilty about the whole situation. I had to make sure she was safe. And meaning, I had to make sure she felt like she could be comforted by
you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because, and then the truth is, okay, I'll admit it. I did actually stab her mom. I will admit it.
I know. Okay.
In June 2015, Nicholas Godejohn stabbed Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, to death in her Springfield, Missouri home. Now, we all know, or most of us know, that the crime was completely planned by Gypsy Rose. And according to the investigation and his own admission during his interrogation, it was carried out by Nicholas. Again, and it's important to remember this, it was completely planned by Gypsy, and Gypsy had tried in the past to unalive her mother, once with a BB gun that she thought was, a real deadly gun. And, so Gypsy had it in her mind for a long time to end her mother. This wasn't new. But when Nicholas came along, she found her hitman, her doer. She knew that she'd be able to manipulate him into doing anything that she wanted him to do. Anything. So on November 16th, 2018, Nicholas was found guilty by a jury and he was sentenced in February 2019 to life in prison without the possibility of parole for count 1, which was first degree, and 25 years for count 2, armed criminal action. Now, does he deserve life in prison for his crime? I don't really think a killer should be free. That's just my opinion. But in this particular case, I don't feel like it's as black and white. But let's talk about it. He did know right from wrong. He did. He didn't want to do it. He tried to get Gypsy to, just run away with him. But when she insisted on the kill, he went ahead and did it. Some could argue that his behavior during his interrogation showed someone who had no idea of the severity of his actions. But some could also argue that he did know. There's also the sick detail of him wanting to R-word Dee Dee. That was his thought, and that's concerning to me. That is a dangerous person. Also, there's this belief that he only stabbed Dee Dee 4 times. He said he stabbed her 4 times, but also said he didn't count the ones that weren't as deep and not so many words. So I'm going to insert that clip here. It's kind of a long clip, but please watch it.
In a random spot in the back.
In the back, just random?
Yes.
Do you know how many times you stabbed her?
4.
You stabbed her 4?
Yeah, 4 times.
Okay.
The 4th one, I felt it go into, I think it might have been her lungs.
Okay.
It was harder to get out.
Okay. Did it take 1 hand to get it out, 2 hands?
I had to yank it out.
Okay.
With 1 hand.
Okay. So it did. So the others came out easy, but that one kind of came out harder?
Yep.
Okay. And so, you only stabbed her 4 times? Are you sure about that?
Well, as in stabbing, I stabbed her 4 times.
Okay.
But I did actually cut her 1 other time besides that.
Okay. Where'd you cut her
On
out?
the back of her neck.
Okay. And did you use the same knife that you
Yep.
did the others with?
Yep.
Okay. And when you did the cross the back of the neck, did that even cause an injury, or did you see any blood or anything?
Yeah, she was bleeding.
Okay, she's bleeding. And so did she scream or holler, or?
Yeah, she did.
What was she saying?
First she said help, and then she didn't recognize who I was. And she
Okay.
said, who are you? And then,
She said, who are you?
yeah.
Okay. And she didn't recognize who you are, and she says help, and then what does she say?
And then she called up for Gypsy, but Gypsy didn't do anything.
Okay. She hollered for Gypsy.
Yes.
And did she holler for Gypsy once, twice, 5 times?
3 times.
3 times? And what was she saying? Can you tell me how she said it?
She pretty much yelped it.
Yelped it?
She was like, Gypsy!
Okay.
Yeah, she was loud.
And what did you do when she did that?
It didn't stop me from keep on going.
Okay. You just kept stabbing her?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any reason that we would think that maybe you stabbed her more than 4 times?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, did Gypsy come in and stab her?
No.
Gypsy never stabbed her?
She couldn't do it. That's
Okay.
the reason why she asked me to.
Okay. Did you try to get Gypsy to come in and stab her?
No, I would have never done that.
Okay. So when you say 4 actual stabs, so those are the ones that went in deeper?
Yeah.
Was there some little ones? Or
There might have been, because the truth is I counted the ones that went in deep. I didn't count if there's any other ones.
okay. So if there's any other ones, you just didn't count those because they didn't go in as deep.
Yeah.
Okay. But you know that 4 of them went in deep.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where those 4 deep ones were?
And again, he knew it was wrong because he felt guilt.
I think it's just a blockage because of the guilt.
Okay.
I can't
Okay.
remember.
Sometimes there's things that we don't remember and that I'll understand.
The interrogation was shown to the jury, so the jury heard him admit to the crime. And we'll go over his entire interrogation in another video because there are a lot of points that I want to address that I can't do in this video. But he, in the interrogation, the jury heard him admit to the crime, they heard him describe the crime, and they also hear him read and acknowledge his rights. And I bring that particular part up because I have a real problem with certain parts of his interrogation, and particularly this part right here.
Okay. What did you eat?
They're called ham sandwiches. I guess they offer that with mayonnaise as well.
Oh, do you like mayonnaise?
Well, I don't like them.
Now, I'm not making fun of him with this clip, but he said they're called ham sandwiches. I don't know. I feel like that was kind of a red flag. Someone should have stopped it and insist that he get an attorney. Again, I know that's not their job, the police. Their job is to tell him his rights and ask if he understands them. Once he responds affirmatively, they've done their part. And I don't think that I would feel good about it if I were a cop in that position. I don't know. Maybe I'd be okay with it. I don't know. I feel like he actually did not understand his rights, even though he affirmed that he did. I really wish he asked for a lawyer from the beginning. I think most of us wish that. Although I doubt an attorney would have changed too much for him in the long run. But, I bet he didn't ask for one. And you can tell by the way he speaks about Gypsy, through this whole thing, that he still thinks she's his perfect angel and the sun shines out of her butt. It's clear as day to me that he needs someone advocating for him. And if I can see it, and I know many of you can see it, that officer interrogating him, she should have seen it as well. And again, maybe she did. And it is not her job to get him an attorney. It's her job to get him to say he understands his rights. And, he said he did. And it's not up to her to decide he doesn't, really understand them. So I don't know. I think I would have recommended that he get an attorney, but that, again, not her job. And no, her colleagues would not have liked that. They want to wrap it up with a nice confession. No cop likes to interrogate someone that asks for an attorney. But sometimes what's right isn't always what's convenient and isn't always what's fun. I just wanted to speak on this because this interrogation was, it was part of his trial. It was a big part of his trial. They watched the entire interrogation. So let's look at Missouri sentencing guidelines for a minute. So for adults, for first degree, the minimum sentence is life in prison without possibility of parole, and the maximum being D-pen, of course. So because he was found guilty of first degree, he received the appropriate sentence for his crime. He received pretty much, that's the minimum he could get according to Missouri sentencing guidelines. The only way that would change is for the charges to be reduced to second degree or even manslaughter. And I have read a lot of comments on various sites that, support him, spending life in a mental hospital. And I understand where their hearts are, but, I made a video about this in the past explaining the financial burden to the U.S. prison system, because unfortunately, it is all about the money, the bottom line. And would a mental hospital really even help him cost versus, what the prisons can provide him? And also, that would set a precedent. In the U.S. alone, there are at least 550,000 inmates with intellectual disabilities, most of which could claim diminished capacity. If he didn't know right from wrong, that might warrant a mental facility. But in the U.S., according to my research, despite all the criminal television shows in existence, it is difficult to get someone sentenced to a mental facility. It really is. And, they have to show that the person is going to receive treatment that would not be offered in a prison setting, like electroconvulsive therapy. That wouldn't be done in a prison. But one-on-one and group therapy is available in a prison setting. Psychiatric drugs are prescribed, for prisoners, as they are required. They're administered. And remember, it's about saving money. They aren't going to spend extra money on one prisoner or on any inmate unless it proves to be beneficial to the U.S. prison system and worth it to the prison system. I guess that's the same thing. Unfortunately, by definition, Nicholas did commit first degree. The defendant intentionally and deliberately killed a person without a legally justified reason. Second degree doesn't require premeditation, and we're actually going to cover second degree more in another video, because planning is considered premeditation, and Gypsy planned the whole thing. But again, that discussion is for another video, so that'll be coming soon. But by the letter of the law, Nicholas Godejohn is guilty of first degree. And Nicholas's attorneys, in asking for a new trial, as his attorneys at the time did not present evidence, to support diminished capacity. If diminished capacity was backed up by an expert in the field, which it was not, it is possible that the charge of first degree, could have been reduced. And again, that is the only way that his sentence could be reduced. And also, his defense did mention that Gypsy Rose planned the whole thing. She provided the weapon, the gloves, the money to travel there. She told him when to do it. She, in my opinion, is guilty of first degree. And we'll go over that again in another video. But I want to insert this clip here.
I believe it is State's Exhibit 145. Did Nick have a knife that was used in the murder?
I supplied the knife.
Where did you get the knife?
I stole it from Walmart
And why did you steal it from Walmart?
because I didn't see a knife that was sufficient enough in our own home.
There was also some gloves that have been introduced into evidence.
Yes,
Where did Nick get the gloves?
I supplied them.
And where did you get the gloves?
They were already in our house.
How did Nick know when to do this crime, time-wise, that morning?
I told him.
Who planned this murder?
I did.
Did Nick do any of the planning in this murder?
He may have had one or two.
Do you know what plans he provided?
He decided what the weapon would be.
Had you discussed alternative methods of killing your mother?
Yes,
What other alternatives had you considered?
poison, arson, a gun.
Why did you not consider poison?
It was too hard to find an odorless, tasteless poison.
I'm sorry, I have to redo this part because the cat was all up in the place, and I'm sure that y'all don't want to see that. So let's talk about the elements of a fair trial. A fair trial has an impartial judge, and that is a judge that is independent and not subject to improper influence or pressure. It's a public hearing, so the proceedings are open to public scrutiny. I hear you, baby. All parties are equal before the court. The trial is held within a reasonable time period. The defense is given the opportunity to fully present their case. There's a presumption of innocence. The defense has access to legal aid. Reasons for judgment are presented. There's an impartial jury. There's an opportunity to rebut and also cross-examine prosecution's witnesses. Let me let this cat out. I'm sorry. Basically, a fair trial is when a judge and jury listen to both sides and makes a decision based on the facts presented, and then there's all those intricacies surrounding it. So why would a motion for a new trial be denied? So it might be denied if the court finds that the request for a new trial is not based on substantial legal grounds. Were alleged errors during the original trial significant enough to affect the final outcome? Is any new evidence to be presented in a new trial credible, or was it discoverable during the first trial? Did the move-in party, that would be the party that filed the motion, exercise due diligence in uncovering potential issues during the original trial? So the main reasons a motion for a new trial may be denied is move-in party did not take reasonable steps to discover the new evidence during the original trial, and the move-in party cannot show how alleged errors impacted the final outcome. And double jeopardy concerns, a new trial may be denied if granting it would violate one's right against double jeopardy, meaning a defendant cannot be tried twice for the same crime. But I don't know how that would work here, because it is a request for a new trial that's being tried again, but maybe it's new as in we're going to strike the first trial from the record. I'm not sure how that works. My Missouri legal professionals, chime in, please. New evidence is unreliable or not likely change the verdict, and the motion was not filed within the appropriate time frame, which it can vary, and I got sticky stuff on me, and depends on the jurisdiction. So these are the things that need to be considered, and it's a lot, really. So my question for everyone, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but are you willing to look at every case of every inmate that can say that they were suffering from diminished capacity, at the time of their crime? Because if you're not willing to do that, do you really care about justice, or do you only care about it because you feel it will stick it to Gypsy Rose? And it's fine if that's how you feel, but I'm just wondering. So I'm not saying Nicholas doesn't deserve a new trial. I do believe diminished capacity is an issue that should be brought up in a new trial, simply because his lawyers should do everything they can to get him out until they've exhausted all options. I do believe that can result in a reduced charge if diminished capacity can be proven. It absolutely will actually be a reduced charge, and it definitely result in a reduced sentence. But based on my research. But then what happens to Nicholas if he were to get out of prison? I don't see the trash rag TMZ banging down his door and helping to attempt to make him America's sweetheart, like they try to do with Gypsy Rose. And what happens if he gets out and some girl out there decides they want someone deleted from the earth, and she paid attention to the case, corrected the mistakes Gypsy made, and she targets Nicholas? If he truly suffered from diminished capacity, it can easily happen again. And I'm just saying there is a lot to think about. It's not just cut and dry. Personally, I feel Nicholas is dangerous. I do. It was his brain that came up with R word and DD, And I know he didn't, but he thought of it. And it really took little effort to talk him into the crime. It really did. It did take, a little work for Gypsy to get him on board, but, not that much. It didn't take that much. And so in legal terms, diminished capacity defense means that a defendant should not be fully held responsible for a crime due to impaired mental functions. It's an abnormal mental condition that prevents someone from forming intent. So the Cornell Law School published a scholarly article on diminished capacity, describing diminished capacity as a plea based on the belief that certain people, because of mental impairments or disease, are simply incapable of reaching the mental state required to commit a particular crime. In the example of murder and manslaughter, a diminished capacity defense contends that a certain defendant is incapable of intending to cause a death. We know Nicholas had the intent. He had the intent to cause Dee Dee's death. He knew what he was doing. He knew his stabbing Dee Dee would result in her death. He knew that, and he knew it was wrong. So if a defendant is found to have had diminished capacity, they could only be convicted of a lesser offense. If they're found guilty, it's a lesser offense than first degree. So if Nicholas, was to get a new trial and diminished capacity is proven, though I think it will be hard to prove that because of the interrogation video, because of the planning, and his expressed feelings of guilt, he can be found guilty, but only of a lesser offense. but I don't think that would apply here. But anyway, second degree or manslaughter, which would most definitely get him a shorter sentence. And while it's possible his attorneys could argue diminished capacity, the definition doesn't suit the situation. But if they can make it work, then make it work. That's how I feel about it. Make it work, designers. I understand that Gypsy destroyed Nicholas's life, but he had a part in that too. He has to take responsibility too, which he is. She did railroad him. She did railroad him, and I believe with every intention of throwing him under the bus. I do believe that. She never loved him. She never cared. She was using trickery. But we have to quit. We have to quit blaming the autism. It is offensive to those with autism. I have seen so many comments, particularly on Reddit, but on TikTok, on YouTube, everywhere, from autistic individuals who have a real problem, and rightfully so, with the infantilizing of Nicholas because of the autism. When Alex Manassian, look him up. I'm not going to get into that here. He killed 11 people via vehicular homicide, and people believed he could plead insanity because of his autism. Autism is not insanity, and I'm speaking as a neurodivergent myself. If he suffered from diminished capacity, that is separate from the autism. Autism doesn't prevent someone from knowing right from wrong. Yes, that can depend on where they are on the spectrum. I understand that. Trust me, I do. But we're talking about high functioning autism. Autism, could have caused him to be more susceptible to manipulation, that's for sure. But it wouldn't make someone want to R-word their girlfriend's mom after stabbing her to death. Seriously. One comment I read, I'm sorry, I have an itchy nose, was this. I'm autistic as well, and people are being so ableist with him, and it's infuriating. If someone asked me to murder their mom, I would say no, but I can try to help you other ways. Being autistic doesn't mean we are evil. It doesn't mean we are stupid, and we definitely know right from wrong. So that was one comment I read that I thought it was worth reading. I know people say he suffers from other mental disabilities in addition to autism, but I have yet to hear what those are specifically. But just stop blaming the autism. Autism is not a defense, for bad behavior. Quit making people afraid of people with autism. So please just stop with that. It's offensive and ableist. And there are lots of autistic people in prison who aren't using autism as their excuse, for committing their crimes. I'm just saying. Again, diminished capacity, maybe. Being autistic, no. I do understand that life in prison with no chance of parole for Nicholas seems unfair. I understand that. There's nothing else that can be done unless they can get the original charge reduced, and possibly the armed criminal action, but they may be able to get that dropped completely. But I also don't believe that Nicholas is this angel, this vulnerable child. I don't believe that. People make him out to be this just vulnerable little angel, and he's not. He was absolutely manipulated by Gypsy, absolutely, and she's the demon here, but he did the act. I'm not clearing Gypsy. I have more to say about her case, and I feel if he is doing life, she should be doing life too, because she is guilty of first degree because she planned it. So that's really all I have to say on this matter right now. I'll be discussing second degree unaliving and Gypsy Rose's plea deal and her whole case in a later video. And thank you so much for visiting with me today, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye.